Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of the Mavpuckcast with Jason.
And John.
Thanks for tuning in today. So, John, our running sketch here. I've got a wonderful 2013 Cabernet Sauvignon from Kimberly River in California. I have no idea who they are or where they're from, but they make a pretty good cab.
Wow, that's a very yuppie drink of you to have for a tough hockey podcast like this. So way to change it up though. I was the mixtures with the Coke had kind of become commonplace. So yes, is it fruity, woody? As you know, I'm not a wine person, but yeah, does it meet all of the
It does have a pretty good earthy bouquet.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I figured, we get our first win. I've got to yuppie this up a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I figured Pinky Up Tea wasn't going to do very well for us.
No, that was not going to do well at all.
And I don't know what the heck a crumpet is, so that wasn't going to work.
No, we're not going to be doing our Downton Abbey routine here. So no, absolutely not.
Yeah. So what do you got today?
Now I have, as you know, I'm a big Clear Pop fan. I have Sprite Cherry. Now what I'm going to tell you is I've had Cherry 7-Up before, which is more like a Shirley Temple. It's like a 7-Up with grenadine in it. This is more like the Clearly Canadian I had a couple weeks ago. So it's Sprite with just kind of like a hint of cherry flavor. It's very good actually. So I'm gonna have to add this to my drink rotation. So it's not one of those overpowering like fruit pops.
Like a ton of cherry.
Yeah, exactly. Which
That's
is nice. It's just a hint of it with there. So it's got a nice. I don't know. I don't know.
It's got something.
I picked it up at the grocery store gas station. So yeah, I'm liking it though.
I can't say the same thing about my wine, thankfully.
That did not come from that. Was not a that was not a gas station wine. So
I am a bit of a snob when it comes to my drinks. So all right, so let's get to the important stuff. What people are actually here, since we wasted like 10 minutes of their time talking about drinks.
Yeah.
Recap: Miami, Ohio comes here to Baxter Arena.
Right.
They get a win on Friday, and UNO bounces back admirably on Saturday with a 6-3 win.
Absolutely, and you're thinking to yourself, I don't know how they're going to do after the loss on Friday. You're thinking psychologically, is it just going to start to be, too big of a burden to bear for the team? Are they going to have a tough time? And good things happen to them on Saturday night.
A good second period happened to them.
Definitely a good second period. And you know what? They took advantage of the opportunities that they had. That 5-minute major, they put the puck in the net during that. And
3 times, yeah.
That was the difference in the game. And that was big. And you could just tell by the body language of the team. They were excited.
Yeah, I remember when we were walking in, you and Bridget were sitting there. We walk right behind you.
Yep.
And Bridget looked at me and was kind of like, how's this going to go? I'm like, I ain't give us a shot in hell of making it. I'm like, there's no way we're winning this game. After Friday, I just thought I know I predicted a split last week, but I thought the split was going to come win on Friday, lose on Saturday. I didn't think we could win on Friday.
There
Saturday.
were a lot of people who thought that if we were going to win, it would happen Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but the guys, they put in a valiant effort. Like it was, despite losing on Friday, I thought they played pretty well.
They did, especially the first period. I thought they played well, and they had some good looks at the Miami goaltender. Shots just didn't go in on Friday, but if a couple more had,
we didn't seem to get a couple bounces, and
right,
and we were still plagued by the passing situation. Still,
sure.
I think hurts us. I will say that I was really happy to see the lineup card on our drive to the arena. I told Julian at the beginning of the season, I said, they need to put Ward with Olofsson and Morelli.
Yep.
I'm like, that is the line that I think going into the season, like that should be our number one line. That's going to be a great line. And we never saw it until this weekend.
Exactly. And that Friday goal was kind of a nice little kind of tic-tac-toe goal.
Yeah.
It was a pretty goal.
Yeah. It was a well set up play.
Yep.
And then Ward gets another nice one on Saturday.
Yep. And at that point, you're thinking, man, this guy's taking
Yeah.
the team on his shoulders here. This freshman is gonna,
Oh, and then his assist to Morelli.
yeah,
I mean, to take that extra step from around the goal was the difference maker in that play.
absolutely.
Just a perfect pass to Morelli. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that was a good play. Ward has had some of his best play, I think, the last couple of games, even the series
Yep.
in Arizona.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's impressive to see. That's what this team needs. And I don't know if you'd agree with this or not, but I think that the success or failure of the team this year is going to come at how good the freshmen become, how they evolve as the course of the season goes. I think as the freshmen go, it may be, how the Mavericks go this season. And it's a weird kind of thing to say about freshmen, but after
Yeah.
this week's series, I'm kind of wondering if they're able to step up and fill in some of the gaps left behind by the players we've lost the last couple seasons.
I think you either needed one or two situations this year for UNO to have a quality season. You either needed a player to step up and take the role of Pope that we had last year,
Right.
where every team comes in saying, how are we going to make sure that he doesn't score?
We've got to stop this player.
Right. Because that opens up play for second, third, fourth liners.
Right.
Or you have a situation where on any given night, any freshman has a good game, where now you're having to come in as an opposing coach and say, who's it going to be tonight? And what do we
Right.
do to make sure that it's no one?
Yes,
Which is hard to do.
absolutely. It's hard to plan for. And especially when you're dealing with players that these teams haven't seen the last,
Or-
2 or 3 seasons.
Depending on, especially on the out of conference play, we talked about out of conference play when we were playing out of the NCHC.
Right.
But what often gets overlooked is that when you're dealing with NCHC teams, you're dealing with kids that you may have been looking at as recruits.
Right.
So freshmen aren't as much of a surprise.
That's true. I mean, I understand what you're saying there.
But now you go out to Union and stuff like that. Like, these are kids that they probably didn't look at at all.
No.
And they're going to have, and you got no film on them because they're
no,
freshmen.
absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. We do need them to continue the good play. I
Yeah.
still think that not having Tyler changes the team. I would expect that he would help kind of propel the freshmen a little bit.
It'll be interesting to see because obviously we saw him, in the exhibition against the Canadian school, but it will be very interesting to see how they do with him against, real NCAA competition and how he
Right.
does against that, because a number of guys looked good in the exhibition. I think he'll be good. Obviously, I don't want to put that kind of pressure on him, like he's got to come in and be the guy, but he'll definitely add another dimension
Right.
with these guys, and he'll be another player that could potentially be a goal scorer for us, and that would be huge.
And surprisingly, we got our win on Saturday without Timo Pulkkinen.
That's
And
right.
I would say the rumors and the situation that led to him having to leave on Friday would garner that he's not going to be back for a while.
Okay.
So,
And you combine that with, Tyler maybe not being back till Christmas or
yeah.
later.
Yeah. Coaches always like to keep the specifics of that pretty close to them, and
Yeah, they like to keep that close to the vest for sure.
it would be nice as fans to know whether or not we stand a chance of seeing them. But
what's funny about that? During the press conference last week, one of the folks from the media that was on hand asked about injuries, and basically Gabinet was like, a couple guys are injured, and then he kind of smiled and he got up and left. So that was the last question. So after the one the week before where he
Thanks,
kind of gave us a
Sherlock.
little bit of insight, the coach is not going to be sharing that with us. He's probably worried about us talking about that. Oh, he's like, I don't want those guys on the Mavpuckcast talking about who's injured and who's not, so that our opponents can pull that up online and listen to it. So we'll just have to speculate. But
Gabnet, if you're listening, at least tweet us so we know that.
yeah, if you want to DM us on Twitter,
Yeah.
we're down with that. Don't worry.
We'd love
We
to know
won't-
you at least listen.
Yeah, we'd like to know too. So yeah, we won't reveal our sources, man. So yeah, absolutely. But like I said,
Just let us know if I should be hopeful or not. That's all I need to know, because that tells me quite a bit. Should I hope to see Tyler before Christmas, or am I looking at more like a birthday gift?
Yeah, Gabs, this is Jason's Christmas wish, is to see Tyler Weiss in the lineup. So
I'd like to see him next week versus Western Michigan. We're going to need him.
I'd like to see him too. But like I said, Taylor Ward has been impressive. Chase Primo has been impressive. Travis Cothenbutel on Saturday night.
I noticed him for the first time. I'm like,
absolutely.
That's right. The kid with the long name. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, to me, the freshmen were the impressive factor.
Yeah. We just need to keep playing from that.
Oh, absolutely.
So we said it was a 6-3 win on Saturday. Some debate about that. Many of our followers on Twitter and Facebook seem to think it should have been 7-3.
Yes, they do.
So, John, why don't you let us know why we think the scoreboard was incorrect in its conclusion?
Well, the folks think that the scoreboard was incorrect because a Miami player decided in his infinite wisdom to...
With about 2 minutes left.
Right, to throw his stick at that beautiful puck
careening towards an open net.
Yes.
Since they had pulled their goalie, right?
Right. It hadn't gotten to the crease.
We're still we're still probably 14 feet out.
I would say so.
When it made contact.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
And the rule situation on that is, it's really interesting because as we talked about, preparing for the podcast and everything, a lot of the fans have been keyed into the rule and the verbiage that's used, and did he throw his stick or didn't he throw his stick? Did the stick make contact with the puck when the stick was in his hand or out of his hand? And I, of course, in my I looked at this going, it's clear to me, even from where we sit live, I was like, there's no doubt in my mind that stick was not in his hand when it made contact with the puck.
I didn't think it was in his hand either.
Right.
The question is, was the puck headed toward the net?
And that's the part that the fans, I think, are overlooking and what I have heard from sources that can't be named, unfortunately, but I feel very confident and reliable in, is that the discussion in the video review booth was not about whether or not he threw his stick. The discussion was whether or not the puck was going to go into the net if he didn't throw his stick.
Right.
Now, my problem with that is, so they come out of the review, and essentially what they're saying is that they felt that if he didn't throw his stick, the puck was going to go wide.
Correct.
I look at it going, okay, maybe not. When the thing's 14 feet out, there's a lot that can happen to that puck when, you're looking at the end of a third period against college hockey teams. There's a lot of junk on that rink.
There is, especially right around the nets.
Yeah.
The ice is going to be rough.
So while it may have been heading towards a post, let's say, you got to have a little bit of leniency there to say, you know what, there's a possibility it could have hit a pile of snow or something.
A stiff breeze might have come in from the club seats. Who knows?
We had curling here at Baxter Arena last year. I've watched that stone. I know the thing doesn't move in a straight line.
Yeah.
So there's the possibility.
Absolutely. UNO's former director of hockey operations, Sam Spomer, on Twitter, who, if you don't follow him, he's at Recovering Ops on Twitter. And this season, now that he's not in his director of hockey operations role anymore, he's been kind of breaking down some of the plays and some of the little film clips of the team this season on his Twitter account. And it's really interesting. It's kind of something different than, the rest of us posting humorous quips and snarky comments and memes on Twitter during the game. He actually posts some little breakdowns. So he was talking about this.
Quite a bit of knowledge behind his posts.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He does a good job. So, so it was one of those interesting things. Fans are going to be talking about that one for a while. I will say, from our perspective, it was, it was probably good because we were out of streamers to throw from the upper deck. So another goal. We would not have been having fun and celebrating that one as well, but it would have been great to see an empty net goal there.
We could have stole some of them from the like 3 rows in front of us because some of ours didn't make it all the way down to the
Yeah,
first one.
yours made it to the lower part of the upper deck. So
Yeah.
yeah, there were a couple of misfires there.
I think we're done buying our streamers at like the dollar store because they're apparently not wound tight enough.
Oh, okay. Oh, you got to get the premium.
We might have to upgrade our streamer.
I'm trying to remember. I think Bridget's been getting hers at Walmart. So
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not a big Walmart fan.
Okay.
We'll find somewhere.
Okay. Well, yeah. You do it.
So, podcast dynamics. You and I working fairly well together. What about team dynamics?
Yeah. Let's talk about team dynamics.
I think the dynamics is what's leading to a lot of our issues. I think that the guys are still struggling to find some chemistry, and that's why our passes are off. I think that it was very interesting to hear for those that don't know, maybe kind of the backstory to this. Friday after the loss, the rumors are, I guess, I don't know that I've heard anything officially confirmed or anything, or if anyone even would confirm something like this, that's
all right.
Quite possible, is that Coach Gabnett did not go into the locker room after the end of the game. He basically just walked straight by right into the press conference and said, we're just going to do this. And left the players to their own
devices.
Yeah. So it's interesting because especially with, the number of freshmen that we have and the number of seniors that we have, the vast majority of our team are the two ends of the spectrums there, right?
Yeah, it's the guys who've been around for these are the fourth season and the brand new guys.
Yeah. To see that, to let them basically say, look, this is your team. If you want to do this, you're going to need to do this. I'm a coach. Like, I can't do this for you. I can't bring you through this.
That's the big thing. Gabinette cannot baby these guys.
No.
He can't coddle them along. They've got to figure this out for themselves. I mean, I have the utmost confidence that the coaches are telling them the things that they need to hear.
Right.
The question is, are they doing the things that they need to be doing? I mean, that's the that's kind of the crux of the situation.
And you can't force them to do it.
No.
I mean, you can tell them, you need to do this. You want to win, this is how you win. But
yeah,
ultimately it comes down to, I can't just make you do it.
No, it's ultimately up to them whether they're going to do it or not. And like I've said many times, I'm glad I don't have my livelihood in the hands of, teens and early 20-somethings because I think I would have even less hair and more gray hair than I do now. So
the stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the stress lines would be even greater around my eyes and in my forehead. So, yeah. So I think he was sending a message to the team. You could tell that the players they don't show a lot of footage online of the post game presser, but you could tell that when Taylor Ward was talking, he seemed really down. I mean, he had the only goal on Friday night, and you could tell he wanted to win.
Right.
But like Gabinette said, there's a lot of things that just haven't been working. It's not just one thing. So.
Lots to work on.
Oh, absolutely.
They got their first win.
Yes.
Hopefully the guys realize, and I'm sure that Gabinett will be preaching this just from our experience with him. I'm fairly confident say he will be. One win does not make a season.
It does not.
You still have a ton of work to do.
Exactly. But what it teaches you is take advantage of those opportunities when you have them. Because if they hadn't had the major penalty, the game might not have gone that way. And furthermore, I mean, who knows what could have happened in the third period, but they held it together and they got the victory, and that's all you need. And hopefully they feel just psychologically like the monkey's off their back a little bit.
There's plenty to build from. I mean, you came from behind.
Yep.
You got the win.
Yep.
You were successful on your power play.
Yep.
You started to gel more, play more as a team, so you keep building upon that.
The freshmen were key contributors, which is always important with a team that's got a lot of newcomers.
You don't have that stress of when are we going to get our first win now? So.
Right. Yep. That thing is that question is off the table now. Yep.
Yeah. So I think the last bit to talk about as it pertains to the Miami, Ohio series was shaking hands. Or maybe more specifically, the lack of shaking hands.
Yeah.
So if you were not at the game, or if you shut your feed off prior to the
Yeah, and I can't remember. They were talking about that last night. I don't know if the NCHC feed chopped off before then or
does it
not.
cut off? I don't. That's a good point. I don't know if it cuts off when.
It depends. They're all different. There are some of the feeds that, they go and they hold on until the, post-game press conference starts and they show that. There are others that right when that game is over, right during the middle of the handshake, it chops off. So I haven't gone back to, it wasn't up there last night, so I haven't gone back to look. But yes, so word on Twitter is that Coach Gabinet, Coach Noel Bernier did not shake the hands.
Oh, I can confirm that they did not.
Okay, the only part I was watching when Coach Blasi and Coach Menino were shaking, kind of patting the UNO players on the back as they walked off the ice. I did not see the coaches. I was not paying attention at that point in time.
I was watching it at the beginning, and it was just one of those. You get that feeling like this seems kind of odd. Something about this just doesn't seem right, kind of thing.
Seems kind of awkward.
Because normally, what will happen is the coaches will kind of move towards center ice, right?
Right.
As you're going down the line, as you're shaking guys' hands, you progressively get closer and closer to center ice.
Right.
But that was not the case with Gabinet. Gabinet was the first one through of the coaches.
Okay.
So he wasn't letting his assistants go first and then kind of wrapping up the line. He was
the
first
which
coach
you've
down.
Seen happen before, yeah. So he was out in front.
Yeah. And he specifically had, I couldn't read the number, and of course from where we are, I have no idea who it was, but whichever player that was trying to go last through the line, Gabinet was very, I don't know if he usually goes behind the coaches or something, but Gabinet was clear that he wanted him to go first.
Okay.
Maybe nothing to that, I don't know. Maybe that's what kind of started to trigger me out, like, why does he care? But they never moved. Like, they really almost like waited for every Miami, Ohio player to come to them.
They didn't progress through the line. They just kind of stood there while the
and waited for the line to
come came to them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so then they shake the hand of the last hockey player to come through for Miami, Ohio, and no hesitation. That's the thing that got me. There was no like, let's stand here and wait and see if they
just turn and head off the ice?
Turned and went straight to the bench.
Wow.
And all three of them in unison, like marching off soldiers. It was.
I didn't think to even.
He did look back.
Okay.
Like he was going to wave to him or something. And I did notice that Blase and Menino were still congratulating players. So it did not look like he made any sort of gesture that they would have, if they would have seen it even. But they were off the ice before the last player goes through Menino.
And so now everybody's wondering, was this an intentional snub because of the circumstances under which Menino left the program? Was that just spring of this year? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he took a couple recruits with him, and so now people are wondering, was this a move of gamesmanship by Coach Gabinet against the Miami Redhawks staff? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Now, let's say that it was. Let's say that he was just being bold. He was just like,
I show them. I'm not going to shake their hand.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you, having lived 46 years,
Preach it.
Huh?
Preach it.
Yeah, having lived 46 years, having been self-employed for 23 years, I can tell you, both personally and professionally, I've developed an enemies list over the years. You wouldn't think that, but I have. And I can tell you there have been many kind of social settings, not a hockey game, mind you, but social settings, public settings like this, where I've had to kind of bite my tongue and put that, painful smile on my face and, shake the hand of somebody who just, irritated the hell out of me. So I probably would have just, since we're in the conference together, I probably would have just gone ahead and been the bigger man and shook the hand of Menino and Blasi. But, I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't. Maybe under the circumstances, I wouldn't have done that. I don't know.
Yeah, the hard part is you don't know exactly what led up to it.
Right.
I will say, from my point of view, as a hockey player and in all the
Right.
years of me playing hockey, I will say
Sure.
that there are guys I know that I'm, have a genuine friendship with
Right.
that have, I would say, done, dirty plays and stuff like that while we've been on, separate teams or something.
Correct.
And it's like, I can almost get past it in the course of a game, right?
Right.
But there's some guys that just, I consider just to be, assholes
They just
outside
really
of the
get
ring.
understand. Believe me, I completely agree.
And like all of a sudden, like I can't get over it. Doesn't
Okay.
matter. Like I just can't get over that on the ice.
It's just
and
like,
I don't know what it is.
It's just in your craw. You're like, yeah.
Why is it that if it happens in a rink, I can just like slough it off, brush it off my shoulder, but if it happens outside the rink, suddenly I'm like vindictive and I don't know, a bit of an asshole myself.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's a rough game, so
It is.
it's kind of understandable. But yeah,
we talk about the backstory to that is, there's a lot of rumors, and I don't particularly like to peddle too much in rumors, but there was a article, and I have been scouring trying to find it. So if anyone does find it, tweet it to me. But there was an article when the NCHC coaches went down to Florida for a conference.
Okay.
All the coaches were down there. This was after Menino left. Menino was down there with Blase, and the way this writer put it, it was not a yelling match between the UNO coaches and Miami coaches. It had escalated beyond that point to the point of like having to break up the two of these. So clearly,
that is so interesting.
That's like some serious stuff going on.
It is because, and it may be more serious than we think because, I mean, Mike Gabinet is such a mild-mannered guy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He is not, I mean, like
can't
with somebody
picture
like
this.
Like with somebody like Dean Blaze, you could probably picture, you probably figure he's got, like his his naughty list. He's got his,
Oh, if I watched DU and yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a
exactly.
He's got a streak.
He's a tough guy, but Gabinet just seems so nice. He's just that,
and very even keel. So
kind,
to see him
cut
like,
Boy Scout guy. Yeah, exactly. So it is, that's very interesting. I've heard a number of the things you've heard as well. I guess I would look at the situation and I would say I think it's better that he's gone. I think it's better for UNO that they moved a different direction. Even though that was Menino's choice to leave, I think overall it was long term. It was better for UNO that happened now. I think that's a positive thing, but it'll be interesting to see if the bad blood continues when the two teams play again later on this season.
Yeah, hopefully it's just one of those, it's just too soon kind of situations that we can work past this maybe in the future.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't know, but
and a lot of this stems from the fact that when Menino was here, he had a lot of responsibility for the recruiting aspects for the UNO team.
Yeah.
Which is why, understandably, a number of players followed Menino to Miami of Ohio.
Right. It's always tough when you're dealing with those recruits to know if they're going to stick or if they're not going to stick, especially when you're dealing with a young coaching staff. Right. I mean, the one thing about Dean Blaze was the guy, whatever his faults may have been, he brought you his Rolodex. And a number of players that we had were, related to people who had played in one way, shape, or form for Dean in the past. So there was a lot of it was, that was more a lot of,
there's a lot of name recognition there.
Who you know, not what you know. I give Menino credit because the guy did go out and get some high profile recruits, but I mean, he's relatively new to the game and new to the scene. So it was always kind of an interesting thing. And ultimately I want players who want to come and play for Mike Gabinet and really whoever the assistants are, because those guys can change, every few years,
right.
They have ambitions of their own. So it's an interesting thing going forward to see how recruiting is without
in the
Menino.
Next few years. Yeah,
in the next few years.
Because we're going to need it. I mean, if the team's going to get better, if we're going to get back to a situation where we're competing for a shot at an NCAA playoff berth, you need
Yeah.
top caliber recruits.
Well,
And
and you and I were talking about this week. I mean, there were people who were contacting me who were like, John, we just don't have the personnel right now. Stop saying
right,
that these guys can compete. They might not be competitive for another couple seasons. And I'm just sitting there thinking, well, we've got to find a way to be competitive in the next couple months. Because it's a 5 month season, it's a long grind, and you can't just surrender now. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of personnel we have coming in, and how the Menino factor affects
hmm
it, and everything else. So
the snowball down the hill rolls quickly.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I've heard people say that before about teams. We just need a couple years to get back in, and attendance starts to drop, and
Yeah,
concessions start to drop, and you've got a rink that's you know not losing a lot, maybe making some money
right.
here and there. Suddenly, losing a lot of money,
Yeah,
and I mean, it
people.
can just
It can
snowball so
it can
quickly.
snowball quickly, and then people
Hard
start
to dig
pointing
out.
fingers, and then morale is hurt among the
Yeah,
players, and then some recruits decide to go somewhere. And so it's one of those things you gotta keep the
you got to
boat
find a way,
together.
right?
Yeah,
So this leads us into kind of the big news in NCAA hockey world, and really beyond just NCAA hockey. The changes to recruiting for all sports, particularly the adjustments that are made then for recruiting for NCAA hockey.
right.
So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about what's changed?
Okay. This started out as not just being hockey. This was kind of an all sport thing, wanting to
Right.
change when players are recruited because they're recruiting younger and younger now. And there are a lot of people who think that creates a problem within the amateur sports world. And I tend to agree, and I think you would tend to agree. And I think a
Right.
lot of the coaches out there, even if they do it, they tend to agree that something needs to be done, because as long as the rules allow you to kind of fudge a little bit,
Everyone's
you're
doing
going
it,
to.
so you have to do it, but
Yeah,
you don't
exactly.
necessarily like it.
So, I mean, for example, a player used to be able to initiate contact at any time with a school. And now they have to wait until January 1st of their sophomore year in
Right.
high school. So there's a little bit of a waiting period there. And basically, what these rules are doing is they're kind of narrowing the window, kind of closing the window a little bit. Um, it used to be that you could make a verbal offer at any time. And so that's why you were getting guys 2, 3, 4 seasons out that were
Right.
verbally committing to schools. Now you have to wait until August 1st of their
Junior
junior
year.
year before you do that. And so that's been part of the process, is to kind of make that so that they're a little bit older. I think one of the things that they said was, that's they're going to be like in that kind of 15, 16-year old, maybe even older time for, depending on
Right.
when their birth date is. So you've got that going on. And so then some of the other stuff, like, the off campus contact, it used to be June 15th of their sophomore year. Now it's August 1st of their junior year. So they're kind of trying to close that window, wait till guys are a little bit older, because what was happening in college hockey was that teams would go out and they would get verbal commitments from players. And there was this, what was called a gentleman's agreement, where other schools just kind of,
Wouldn't actively recruit a student that's under a
right,
verbal
that
agreement,
was
right?
supposedly the gentleman's agreement. So what schools were doing was they were going out, they were grabbing as many players as they wanted, even
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't a player that they thought they would want later on. They were going and getting the player so that their opponents couldn't get couldn't talk to that
Right.
player. And it was creating problems, I think, not only for coaches out there recruiting. I think it was also creating problems for players, making these verbal commitments when the school had no intention of actually signing them to a national letter of intent down the road.
So what do you think this changes? I mean, what effects can we expect to see from this, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately there's still going to be a feeding frenzy for recruits. I think maybe the player and the will be a little bit more mature. Obviously you're dealing with teenagers in high school, but I think maybe they'll be a little bit more mature when they make their decisions. And the hockey rules, what Josh Fenton, who's the NCHC commissioner, is proposing, the hockey rules are slightly different. The window's a little bit more open than the other sports, because college hockey teams go after Canadian college hockey players, and you have to grab them before they commit to major junior hockey, which is basically like, minor league hockey as
Right.
far as a player's eligibility goes. So
Right.
Josh Fenton has been part of a committee that's pushing for this, and they say, it may not be the perfect solution, but at least it means that the player's a little bit older, and it narrows the amount of time between getting verbal commitments from players and actually and the point when they sign a national letter of intent. And we've kind of seen this with UNO over the years, where you get a verbal commitment from a guy who's not coming for a couple of seasons, and by the time it's the time to sign your national letter of intent, the player has moved on, or UNO's moved on,
To
or something
multiple
else.
teams. Yeah.
Yeah, so as a fan, from a fan perspective, it's kind of hard to follow whether some of these recruits, you get kind of high on a recruit and you'll follow them in juniors, and then by the time it rolls around, for whatever reason, they may end up going with another team, or we may end up moving on. So it narrows that window, so it's a little bit closer to when they're actually going to be signing with the program.
I'm interested to see how this affects like USHL, because what has happened in the past is a lot of these kids that would become portfolio cases for schools, where they'd get a verbal offer, they'd hold them, no one else talks to
Right.
them, they end up deciding they're going to go to UNO, but
Right.
UNO goes, hey, yeah, we don't need you anymore, or you're welcome to come, but there's no scholarship, you're welcome
Right.
to come, but if you look at our roster, you're probably not going to get any playing time.
Yeah.
And then they elect to go USHL for a year, because they can still play USHL and
Right.
maintain eligibility. And that's where you see particularly some of these schools where they have a large exodus of seniors, or you get sophomores and juniors that decide they're good
Yeah.
enough for the NHL and make a jump. They'll kind of pillage the USHL ranks and find some players who
Sure, you'll get
have
it.
been playing, who
Yeah.
are a little bit older, who can come in and make a little bit more of a
Right, guys who weren't necessarily attractive to like the NHL. They weren't
Right.
NHL draft picks. They weren't obvious guys that college programs went after when they were in high school or playing high school hockey before juniors. Yeah, they're
and they're kids you don't have to deal with transfer rules for.
they're the kind of players that UNO got during the early years of the program, actually. And when you're trying to fill out spots on a roster, when you've had players that have departed for whatever reason, those guys actually prove to.
So the concern for me, I mean, not that it's necessarily a bad thing, just
Right.
that it's going to change the landscape, is
Yeah.
that if fewer of these kids are in a position where they gave a verbal commitment and there's no longer a spot available to them at the university that they committed to, what is that? Does it change anything? Because quite possibly it may not change
It may not
that much.
You're right.
but-
It may not change a lot, but it definitely, I think,
because they didn't put a quota on anything. That was the one thing that
No.
kind of surprised me is when I was reading through it, is there's no quota on the number of verbal commitments. It's just we're changing the date at which you can do it. So yeah, you're relying on the student to be a little bit smarter about what they're doing and be capable of knowing a little bit more about the university that they're verbally committing to. But we really haven't solved the issue of I can just stockpile verbal commitments.
No, and I think it tries to center it around the sophomore, junior, and kind of senior year, all of the different facets of recruiting. So I guess it kind of staves off a little bit of the, just going younger and younger with
Right.
the players, but it may or may not solve. It may make it easier when you look at the whole gentleman's agreement thing about having a player who, signs or verbally commits in their like sophomore year of high school, and then they
Right.
don't come for 3 or 4 more seasons. It's kind of an interesting thing. And overall, maybe it helps. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there just might be something kind of fundamentally wrong with, going after players so young. Just let them play, let them compete, at least a little while more before, the feeding frenzy happens and all the poachers come and try to get them.
Right. So let's preview here. Next weekend, UNO heads to Kalamazoo.
Kalamazoo. I've made. I think it's.
I want to say that again. Kalamazoo.
Kalamazoo. Yeah.
I don't know why I want to say that again.
My niece was a gymnast at Western Michigan University. I can't talk at the end of this podcast, but yeah, she was a gymnast there. And Bridget and
Just to remind you, I'm the one drinking.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what's in this cherry Sprite, but yeah, we've made 4 or 5 trips to Western Michigan. The kind of one of those old school CCHA foes that we used to enjoy. The one thing I will say is they had a good stable of forwards on that team this season.
Yeah.
Is Wade Allison back? Do we know, is Wade Allison back in the lineup? I bring that up now, and I'm not altogether. A couple weeks ago, we were wondering about that, but yeah.
Yeah, because I know beginning of the season, we kind of pin like a lot of their season will depend on his performance. He was listed on Friday night.
I'll tell you, Andy Murray has done a great job with the Western Michigan program. And one of the reasons I've been interested in the last few years, I guess I should say a few years ago, former Mav Rob Facca, who had a tenure with Northern Michigan and Western Michigan in college hockey as an assistant going out there recruiting, was with that program. And so they're a program that I've always followed closely. And so I'll be interested to see how we do when we roll into Kalamazoo this upcoming weekend. I mean, we had a good weekend this weekend, so maybe it's time for a little bit of optimism.
They're coming off of a loss on Friday, which was Denver pretty much dominating.
That's right. I watched some of that game I watched some of that game on NCHC TV when I got home. Yeah.
And then Saturday they lost in overtime, which is a tough one.
It's
to
tough.
swallow.
It's tough to play at Denver.
I think they could be hungry. They could be a little upset about the performance in Denver.
They want to get back on track in conference play.
Yeah, they play a different style.
Yep.
Something that in the past UNO teams have had a little bit of a struggle to kind of get away from the physicality and the close knit play that Western Michigan tries to play to. I worry a little bit, I would say, about our ability to pass the puck, and that's kind of the key to break down Western Michigan. That's one of the things that Denver does very, very well. Is for as long as I can remember, watching Denver. Denver's always been a team that's pretty good at
puck handling and controlling the puck in their offensive zone.
Yeah, and the passing.
Absolutely.
I mean, passing's always been tape to tape. And Gwozdecki, I remember going to a 2-hour practice, and every drill they ran was passing. Like, there was not a drill they ran that was just like, go pick up a puck and shoot it or anything like that. It was to a T, and he was very particular about which guys get paired together on things like that. Like, he's really looking for that. So I worry that we don't see that from the Mavs right now. We don't see that crisp tape-to-tape passing.
What they're really going to have to do is they're going to have to take advantage of the opportunities that they're given, the power play opportunities. They're going to have to stay out of the box.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one. My 5-year-old niece, who's been to like 3 hockey games, told us after the game that her least favorite part of the game was when the Mavs went to the box. So even she knows.
Yeah.
That's so they've got to not make those mental mistakes.
Yep.
And the big thing is they've got to avoid getting rattled during points during the game.
Play within yourself. Take it as it rolls.
Don't worry if you get down a goal.
Yeah.
Bad
bounces don't matter. Nope. Right. Get over it.
So it'll be very interesting to see. Yeah, Western's not some of the juggernauts that we've seen over the years as a program necessarily. They like you said, they play a very specific style of hockey, but they've got some really good forwards on that team, and so that's if those guys.
They're good at what they do. That's for sure.
That's right. So if they're able to put pucks in net, it could be a tough weekend, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah. So predictions. Do you want to start? Or do you want me to start? I can't remember who started last.
I can't remember who started last time either. Let's go. I'll be optimistic. I'll go for Friday
because I didn't like last week when I had to be the optimistic one. So
Well, I mean, it worked for us. We got a split.
I know.
So maybe now we're rethinking
Don't
our
tell my
formula
superstitious daughter about that one.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with a split. I'm going to say that UNO wins Friday night. I'm going to say that the good vibes coming off of the victory Saturday night against Miami are going to carry over, and we're going to see a team that plays with a lot of hustle, and we're going to see a team that puts a lot of pucks on net, and we're going to see a team that has a little bit of puck luck and wins the game on Friday. Ultimately, I'm predicting they'll lose Saturday, but a split would be perfect at this point.
Interesting. Let's see here. As much as I want a sweep,
Wow. Okay.
I can't do it. I still go back to, people are always like, you're so negative. I'm like, I know, but I just don't see
I'll
it.
tell you what, if they sweep this weekend, then you'll know that it was just some weird kind of mental head case thing going on.
The problem is it possible? Like, it's possible. I look at it going, if we get the puck bounces that we need, if we get some luck, if the guys skate the way that they skated on Saturday,
right,
they can beat Western Michigan.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No, because I've watched every game this season and gone, oh. So, unfortunately, the way I see it going, I think we lose on Friday.
Okay.
I think we come out flying. I hope that we can get a lead, and it's going to come down to whether or not we can maintain the lead. And I go back to Union going, oh, they're just going to make some mental mistake at the absolute wrong time, and we're going to end up tied, and then it's So my hope is a tie on Friday, but I kind of feel like we're going to lose. And I think, again, like I thought before, although we managed to squeeze out the win on Saturday, I just see this team kind of trying a little bit too hard when they get behind a little bit.
Right.
Just even in a game. And so I worry that if we lose Friday away from home, that we don't have a very good odds of coming out ahead on Saturday.
It's going to be tough at Western this weekend for sure.
I'm going to say, unfortunately, we come home with 0 wins in Kalamazoo. But I'm hoping that I'm wrong.
I'm hoping that you're wrong too, because I got to tell you, it's a lot more fun winning. It's a lot more fun running, the Mavpuck Twitter, the Mavpuck Facebook, the Mavpuck site, and doing this podcast when we win games. So I'm hoping the team will claw their way back up to 500 by the time January 1st rolls around. But we're just going to have to see what happens. So
could be in a really good situation at 500 going into NCHC play.
Boy, that would be fantastic.
Wouldn't
going into that. That's it. Anything is possible. So
you never know.
Well, guys, thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Mavpuckcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can find links to all of our social channels at mavpuck.com. You can also find links to all of the back episodes of this podcast.
And we'll put the links in the description too.
That's right. That's great. So in the meantime, Omaha, stay classy.